Good morning, children. Today I'll be explaining you about verbs. Now, this is something you have been doing in your previous classes as well. And like I have told you in your written document as well, that this chapter is a little lengthy. It's a little long, but that does not mean that it's a difficult chapter. You have done everything before, but because it's a little long, so I'll go slowly and we'll do little by little the written work. I'll not give you the whole chapter in one go because then you might get confused. Okay? So this is an explanation of the written part that we have done till now in your fair notebooks about verbs. Now, definition. What are verbs? Now, like you all know, a verb is a word that tells what someone or something does. That means a verb is it's an action word. It tells you about what someone is doing. It tells us about the action. That means the movement of body. Okay? And also a verb is an action word or a word of being. Now this I'll explain later, but what you need to understand it that verbs are action words first of all. Okay? All the actions that we do, for example, sit, laugh, run, jump. Now these are all the words in which your body is moving. You are doing an action. So these are verbs. And what do we mean by words of being? Words of being mean that they tell us about the state. For example, all the be words like is, am, are, was, were, just like helping verbs. Understood? So majorly verbs are the verbs can be divided under two categories. One is action words in which you are doing a physical action, and one is the words of being, okay, in which you are not doing an action but they only help other words in a sentence, just like is, am, are, has, have, had. Understood? Okay. First of all, like I told you, verbs are action words in which your body is physically moving. Draw, hop, jump, read, write, dance, dive, swim. Now these are all major action words. Then verbs are divided into two categories. One you have just read, they are action words in which physical movement is there. Then you have auxiliary verbs. These are the major two kinds of verbs. One is action verbs and then you have auxiliary verbs. Now what are auxiliary verbs? Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs. Okay? They help the main verb in a sentence. What are auxiliary verbs? They help the main verb to describe the action. That action happened in the past or is happening in the present or will happen in the future. So what do helping verbs or auxiliary verbs do? They help the main verb. That means they help the action words. Main verb, principal verb, action words, these are all the same things. Only they have different names but they mean the same. Action words, main words or principal verbs, they are all the same. And what are auxiliary verbs? They are the helping verbs which help the action words in a sentence. Now for example, see there are certain examples written. First one is am. If you use am in a sentence, let's say I am doing my work. Now after am we have used a main action word doing. So am is helping the main verb doing in a sentence. Clear? So usually they come, all these auxiliary verbs, usually they come before main or action words only. Let's say, let's choose now has. Okay. She has completed her work. Now has come with before another principal verb, completed. So all these verbs mostly and majorly come before the action words and they are the ones that help the main action word in a sentence. Understood? Let's choose another example. Say might. She might come to my house. Now again, might has been used before come, which is a main action word. Now come is something, it's a main action word in which your body is actually physically moving. So it's an action word. So all the auxiliary verbs or helping verbs, they help the main verb in performing the action. Understood? Clear? Now, There are 4 types of auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. What are the types? One is be verbs. Be verbs are is, am, are, was, were, being and been. Do words, do, does and did, all the ones that start with D. Then have words, has, have, had, having, all the ones that start with H. Clear? And then final type of auxiliary verbs are modals. They are also known as modal auxiliaries. Understood? And they never change their form. That means, see the examples below. Can, might, could, should. Now you can't say coulded or shoulded. So their tense does not change. They remain the same only and they do not change their form. These words can't be changed. Understood? Clear? Okay. Now, I hope you've understood that auxiliaries are again of 4 types. Be verbs, is, am, are, was, were. Do words, do, does, did. Have words, has, have, had, having. And modals, can, could, should, may, shall. Okay. Now, I'll explain you what modals are. What are modals? What do they do? Now, a modal verb is also known as a helping verb. It gives additional information about the main verb. Now, modals, they will tell you more about the main verb just like the auxiliaries. Understood? Just like the helping verbs, they also tell you more about the main verb. Now, there is no one definition of modals because modals perform various functions. Understood? See below. Examples. They must go out. Now, must has been placed before the main action word go. Okay, and must means obligation. Must means whenever you use must in a sentence, it means that it is compulsory. It's necessary. You don't have any other choice. So, must go, that means you don't have a choice. You have to go. It's compulsory that you have to go. So, it is telling us, it is giving us additional information about the main verb go. Okay. Then, they can go out. Now again, can has been placed before the main action word go, and can means when you want to take permission from somebody, when you give permission to somebody. Okay, so they can go. That means you have the permission of going out. Somebody is giving a permission that they can go. So can is talking about permission. So what do modals do? Modals give us additional information about the main verb. Clear? Now let's see some more examples of modal verbs. Now what are the major functions that they perform? They tell us about the ability, permission, advice, obligation, possibility. Clear? Obligation means when something is compulsory for you to do it. And possibility means chances of something happening. For example, it looks nice but it might be very expensive. That means that you are admiring something, that it looks nice, but it might be very expensive. That means you are making a guess that though this thing looks very nice, but there are chances that it would be very expensive. Next example, Richard may be coming to see us tomorrow. That means you are guessing. You are just probably making a guess that Richard may be coming to see us tomorrow. It's not compulsory that he will come, but there are chances that he may come. Okay. Then advice. Advice is given using which modal? Should. You should try to lose weight. You should visit your dentist at least twice a year. So this is an advice that is being given to someone. And if in all the examples you see carefully, these words, these modals have been placed before the main action words only because they help and they tell us more about the action words. Understood? I hope you've understood now. Just a quick recall. Verbs are of, majorly if you consider, verbs are of 2 kinds. One is action words in which your body is physically moving. For example, I am speaking. Speaking is an action word. You are listening to me. Listening is an action word. Okay. And then you have auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. They help the main verb in performing an action. Now, there are 4 types of auxiliary verbs. Be verbs, is, am, are, was, were. Do verbs, do, does, did. Have verbs, has, have, had. And modal verbs, in which you have different kinds of words like can, could, might, shall, should, must. Now, modals perform various functions, such as they talk about ability, permission, advice, obligation, and possibility. And all these words are most of the times placed before the main verb or the action word because they tell us more about them. Now, I hope all of you have understood. After this explanation, please go through what you have written till now. Okay? And next time, I'll again give you an explanation of the parts that have been done in the notebook. Thank you.